some of us may be aware, we are governed by our hormones, and that goes for men as well as it does for women. So I think this subject matter is equally important for any men in the room, as well as all of the women that are listening this evening. So I'm going to work on the summation that for many of us listening this evening, we're still going through our natural cycle, and that we're here to understand how we can support it through our essential oils as well as other lifestyle interventions. So I'm going to try and condense years of learning and book reading, as I'm sure many of us have been doing, into literally a 30-minute taster and touch to get us thinking maybe a little bit outside of the box, and appreciating that actually we can empower ourselves, that we can take control, and that when we learn how to work with our hormones rather than against them, we can be much more comfortable in our lives. And the reason I've called it Going with the Flow is it's about learning to be present, it's about learning to get quiet, and it's about understanding that as men and as women, we are circadian, we flow. Men tend to flow and reset every day. For women, it normally is a 28-day cycle. So it's about being able to be present through all those different phases. Okay, so this is just a little picture of me, a little bit of background. So the picture, well, I'm looking at it on the left, so it might be on your right, but that's me at age 40. And then through many lifestyle changes that I've made, through introducing plant-based nutrition. So as I say, for me, it's about introducing more plants into my diet, through making supplemental changes, through getting green and clean with my makeup, my skincare, my hair care, and obviously introducing our wonderful gifts of the earth over 18 months ago. This, the photo on the right hand side as I look at the screen, is me just before my 50th birthday. So, you know, again, for me, that's one of my missions, is actually to say that, you know, we can continue, actually, even though we might be getting older, we can get more youthful and we can become more vibrant, and that age doesn't have to be a cage, and that when we learn to harness and look after ourselves, we can be vital at any stage. Apologies for my voice. The irony being that I've had this awful virus for the last couple of weeks, so I need to just be really mindful when I'm doing a lot of talking. Okay, so this evening is a real opportunity for us just to pause, breathe, and smile, to take some time to acknowledge where we are in our own personal life cycle, to take a breath, and just to enjoy what I'm going to be sharing. And then obviously there's the opportunity to ask any questions or message me afterwards, because I'm very appreciative of the fact that there is a team meeting after this. So as it says on the slide, this is from Patrick Holford. The female body has developed a natural monthly rhythm in which it will hormonally ebb and flow. This is as nature planned, and provided a woman's diet, environment, and lifestyle conform to its natural design, it's a natural part of the female life cycle, and it doesn't need to be thought of as an illness or a disabling condition. And certainly my background is that historically, being a woman who had a natural cycle, it was incredibly debilitating. It was an illness. It was being treated medically, which actually resulted in me failing a medical because of the prescribed medication that I was on. It damaged my liver, or was having an effect on my liver count, and that then started my journey into finding other ways to look after myself. So I talk about having fabulous hormones. My personal business is called Fab Fitness. It's all about being fit, active, and body confident. So everything I do is fabulous. And one of, you know, there's a number of ways for us to come home and to have fabulous hormones, and to actually enjoy the fact that we have them, rather than seeing them as the demons that they're often talked about. So of course we want to look at hormone balancing, but there are other things such as stress reduction. And, you know, a lot of the things, and one of the great things about our continued education program is there's lots of lovely links into some of the previous talks. Yeah, so I know Abby did a lot about sleep in her talk. Nutrition for vitality, so people have spoken about nutrition. You know, Becky has done some wonderful talks and presentations on juicing. You know, there's lots of different things that we can do. Lifestyle changes, sleep and movement. Again, Abby spoke about sleep and the importance of it. And then, of course, we want to talk about plant power and harnessing the power of plants and these wonderful essential gifts of the earth. We're also going to, you know, touch on on reducing our toxic load and looking at things like cleaning and so on and so forth. And again, if we go back through our continued education, there's lots of nice links. So now we can start to see how all of our topics integrate, because when we make all of these lifestyle changes, we can come home to ourselves. And please don't forget that any gentlemen that are listening, you also have hormones, and they are as equally troubled and disturbed, for want of a better turn of phrase, when we don't get our lifestyle interventions right. And one book that I would recommend everybody reading, particularly anybody who's going through a bit of a hormonal storm at the moment, wherever you are in your life cycle, and we're seeing more and more now women, you know, in their early 20s into their 30s, pre and postnatally, and then you've got, you know, the wonderful goddesses like myself moving into perimenopause and beyond. We are starting to see more and more hormonal imbalance. And Dr. Sarah Gottfried, she talks about the fact that women basically weren't designed for our today's world. And I actually think we're starting to see that happening with men as well. She's an OBGYN in America. She has a great book called Hormone Balancing, and it's got some little tests, really simple things in there. But fundamentally what she's saying is we weren't designed to live at this pace and in this environment that's so full of so many hormonal disrupting toxicants. So let's just remind ourselves of what a hormone is. It's a regulatory substance produced in an organism and transported in tissue fluids such as blood or sap to stimulate specific cells or tissues into action. So again, isn't that interesting? And we talk continuously about the fact of, you know, how similar our chemical makeup is, you know, from a carbon perspective, humans and plants. And here again, we're seeing a relative, you know, that relationship between blood and sap to stimulate. So, you know, it's very important that we're aware of that. So I'm going to talk about two key hormones this evening, and I'm aware I'm going to go quite fast, but obviously it's recorded. You can go back, you can come and obviously speak to me and questions. But the two key hormones I'm going to speak about this evening are the ones that most of us are probably aware of. So estrogen, so often demonized, but let's look at some of the benefits. It builds up the uterine lining. It's a pro-growth hormone. It's vital for fertility and ovulation. It helps us to have healthy sex organs. It keeps our joints lubricated. And also it's really important for keeping that cortisol and thyroid in balance. So we want to have good balanced levels of estrogen. One of the problems with estrogen is it can become what we call dominant and start to be a little bit of a bully and override some of the other systems. So we want to be very aware of that. And obviously we're aware of many hormonal imbalances. So when people have got too much estrogen, for example, we may see PCOS. Or you get to women in my stage of their life cycle, and naturally, because of the fertility and we're starting to move out of our reproductive years, estrogen is starting to lower. And if it's lowering too much, then that can also be creating some of the hormonal imbalances and problems that we can encounter as we move into our perimenopause and menopause. Now, the great thing is that, you know, we've naturally been provided with a counterbalance to estrogen. So if we think about estrogen as the growth, it's like it grows the grass, then progesterone is meant to be what mows the grass and keeps us in balance. But the problem again is that progesterone might get a little bit lazy or might just get overawed by the amount of estrogen that's going on in the body. And certainly for me, I'm definitely somebody who has suffered and still can suffer with low progesterone. And one of the things to be aware of, particularly as we move into our perimenopause, which is the 8 to 15 years before your menopause. So I better describe what that is. So I'm really sorry for some of the women listening this evening. If you're in your mid-30s, you may be starting to move into your perimenopause, because the average age of perimenopause is around about 51. So knock 15 years off that. And again, the more proactive we can be now, the better we can manage our perimenopause. So some of the things that progesterone supports is our adrenal health. And again, sleep becomes very important when looking after our adrenal health. Our energy, as I've said already, it helps to counterbalance estrogen. It supports fertility and ovulation, healthy bones, relaxation, libido. So it plays an important part as well. And basically, the two should dance in perfect harmony, ebb and flowing through our monthly cycle. So let's have a look here then at the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. And many people aren't even aware that we have these 4 phases. So I'm just going to have a little quick drink. A little pause, breathe, smile there. So let's look at some of these in a little bit more detail. And for those of us that are on a natural cycle, we consider menses as the first day of our bleed. And as you can see, I'm pointing and I've not got a little cursor, I've got a little mouse. Yeah, so as you can see, we've got some different labels at the top. So we've got the Y phase, the how phase, our Venus week as we lead up to ovulation. And then we move into our luteal phase, and we have our what phase here. And I thought this evening it might be quite interesting, excuse me, to look at this aspect of our hormonal health as well, and understanding these different elements of our cycle and how we can use our essential oils to support us through each of these stages. So the menstrual phase right here, as I say, that can be anything from day 1 to maybe day 5, day 7. It really depends on the length of your cycle. And this is where we may be getting subtle messages. There's a lot of self-analysis going on. So we might want to be thinking about using and supporting ourselves with oils such as bergamot and smart and sassy, because both of those can be helping us with that understanding and belief that we are enough, and supporting us in that way. It may be a time to get quiet and listen. So are you getting repeated worries, fears coming through? And again, if we're noticing that we are, we might want to be reaching for our peace or our juniper berry to support us with these fears and worries that may be slightly escalated at this time of the month. For many people, they may be feeling a sense of overwhelm during menses. And again, one of my go-to oils for supporting overwhelm is Zengest or Digest Zen. But obviously now we know it as Zengest, because if we think about it, we use Zengest to support us when we feel like we've eaten too much. And during our menses, for some of us, we may be feeling like we've consumed too much life. There's too much going on. We're questioning why. Why am I here? What's my point? As I say, subtle messages may be coming up. So for me, drinking my Zengest or using that on my tummy is a really great way to help manage that aspect of any potential hormonal imbalance. This is a time to say no to any RSVPs, so you are not seen as a last-minute letdown. And if you're the kind of person who maybe struggles to say no to others, then you might want to think about using oils such as On Guard and Melaleuca on your sternum to support you with your energetic boundaries and your protection as well. And again, it's important to think, because what a number of my clients have done is taken this graph and they've started to track their menstrual cycle. And what we tend to do is say yes to things during ovulation, because then this is when we're at our most confident and outgoing. And then quite often we book them into our time of menses, and then we're thinking, why did I say I'd go and do that? So it helps to sometimes look and see. But if we use some of the lifestyle interventions, we may find that we're not having such big ebbs and flows and, you know, those big hormonal imbalances that other people see. Okay, this is also a time to be supporting estrogen detoxification. So lots of cruciferous vegetables. Maybe you want to be adding some terra greens to your smoothies. And for me, this is when I would certainly be reaching for my Zendocrine and supporting my organs to do their detoxification, my endocrine organs, that's the word I was looking for. What myself and some of my clients and fellow doTerra colleagues have found is that when we use Zendocrine all month, it's too much. It might give us a pain-free menses, but it's such a heavy flow that that in itself becomes debilitating. So shortening the time that we've been using our Zendocrine and just using it maybe before and during menses has helped with that estrogen detoxification, but also minimized the heavy flow that some of us were experiencing. I also tend to increase my omegas during the time of menses to support any sort of inflammatory response. And this could also be a good time to be using your balance daily to help ground you and support you. Okay, so then moving on after menses, we move into our follicular phase, and this can be late into week 1 into week 2, and this is our how phase. This is when we start becoming very creative, great problem solvers, looking at all those exciting projects, and start to become very, very, very sociable as well. Our physical energy increases. And as I said, this is when we move into our Venus week. For any gentlemen listening, this is the good time to start asking about the new car, the golfing weekend, going away on the lads' ski trip, because for most of us, we'll find we're open to anything. This is when we start to become at our most communicative as well. So again, oils to support us at this time of the month. Maybe we want to be looking at Motivate if we're looking to enhance our creativity. Wild orange could be beneficial as well. How about some lemon oil for focus on those projects that we want to be working on? And again, citrus bliss and passion for that brainstorming. And that's also interesting for me that we might be considering using passion just as we're moving up to ovulation. As we always say, nature's very clever in what she sends our way. So again, this is when we've got high energy. We may want to be looking at some challenging workouts if we're into our fitness. You know, this is a good time to be getting that on. And again, then we might want to be using our peppermint to be supporting us with moving through here. Mito2 Max might also be beneficial as well. Then we move into our ovulatory phase, and for some, this is our do phase, and this can be an interesting time for some women, because for many, they may start to feel some pelvic pain as our estrogen rises. We get a sharp burst of our testosterone, and then that drops away. So this might be another time in our monthly cycle to reach for our deep blue to support any pelvic pain. And for anybody who gets mid-cycle migraines, then obviously we might want to be thinking about things like frankincense and peppermint as well. But also maybe looking at some of the foods that we're eating, because sometimes some of our healthy foods, and particularly foods that contain amines, and that can be as wide and as varied as bananas, olive oil, avocados, you know, things that we eat all month thinking that they're really good for us. Those could be trigger foods for those mid-month awful, you know, cranky headaches. So that's something also to be aware of if we're feeling pain and discomfort at this time of the month. This is also a great time for connection and community. So our cedarwood, the oil of, the oil of community, whisper, these are good times of the month to be using those. It's also a great time to be having challenging conversations. So quite often what we recommend is, if there's things that annoy you and upset you in that luteal phase or during your menses, sit with them if you can, rather than letting rip and letting go. Then maybe you want to be having some conversations of truth. So getting out our frankincense, our lavender, the oil of communication, spearmint, if we've got any challenging conversations to be had. And again, if we want to feel composed during these conversations, how about a little bit of patchouli, or again, deep blue, the soothing oil. So lots of opportunities to use our oils in different ways to support some of our feelings and emotions that can change and ebb and flow. Because particularly, in the Venus week, we're like, la, 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 everything's great, nothing gets to us. And then all of a sudden, literally, as we flow into our luteal phase, it's what's the socks on the floor for? You weren't bothered about socks 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden they're the big focus. So again, using elevation, breathe around this time of the month can all really help us to, work in harmony and support the people around us as we move through our monthly cycle. And for me as well, hope is a wonderful oil to use at this time of the month. And then we move after ovulation into our luteal phase. This is the what phase. I'm not going to swear. I'm in a public arena, but most of us probably recognize, that week, or even for some of us, the 2 weeks leading up to menses, we can feel irrational. The progesterone's arriving. We might be getting bloating, irritability. So again, let's get that Zen jest out. How about the forgive for the irritability, or whisper again? Mood swings, let's think about elevation. Cravings, maybe getting that grapefruit and smart and sassy. Our energy may also start to soften, and we might start to turn inwards. And this is when we can start to feel like our true self is being disrespected, and we might start to be having feelings of invisibility. What am I here for? What am I? Just the mother, just the wife, whatever. And again, we can be using our On Guard for feelings of oversensitivity, clary sage, cassia bergamot, and so on and so forth. Then this might be a time for yoga and Pilates. So I think one of the things that's really key to recognize is that not only can we change our oils through the month, we might also want to change the way that we exercise. We might want to think about changing the way that we eat. So for me, during menses, I want really nourishing, root-based food. So, lots of roasted vegetables, warming food, blood-supporting foods. Round my Venus week, I become very much much lighter in my food choices. I'm not interested in carbs and so on and so forth. And then as I move towards my menses again through my luteal, I may become more carb centric, and that's okay. I just go with the flow. I've learned to listen, I've learned to work with my body, and for me it's certainly serving me well. Okay, and if you find yourself in your luteal phase over analyzing, then maybe how about wild orange or ylang ylang or sandalwood or basil to support you with just stopping being so critical of yourself. So then I just wanted to share with you, it's interesting to know that this now is becoming such a science, and actually the Olympic gold medal winning hockey team, their coaches tracked and worked with their cycles in the 4 years leading up to their, game-changing Olympics. They knew then when to feed them certain foods. They knew when to train them, when to put them in a group, when to do the cardio, when to do the heavy lifting, when to do more stretching, and so on and so forth. So again, don't just take my word for it. So I'm just putting my timer on here. This is this is a science. It can work. It's certainly working for myself and many of my clients as we learn, as I said, to go with the flow. So let's talk about balancing hormones. I don't think we can have a talk on balancing hormones without discussing Calm. This for me is an everyday essential, and I personally use it twice a day. I rub it ovary to ovary, just a quick swipe forwards and back after my shower in the morning and before bed in the evening. This for me has been a game changer. And as it says, you know, it is the oil for that time of the month. It helps to balance out our hormones. And again, when we look at some of the oils that are in there, we've already discussed some of these. So, you know, particularly clary sage, bergamot, ylang ylang, these are great in your luteal phase. But again, you know, these can also be used at different phases. So for me, maybe we don't have to use lots of different oils. Maybe we can just use our Clary Calm, and at different times of the month, our bodies will naturally pull what they need in order to support us as we go through our cycle. As a woman who's currently going through her perimenopause, I've started to include the phytoestrogens into my daily regime because they are very much supporting me with my lowering estrogen and progesterone levels. And then we've got other oils here, thyme and oregano, geranium, which is in the Clary Calm, grapefruit. You know, grapefruit, again, was a game changer for me. That's said to support the body's natural ability to keep your progesterone levels up. So I drink it daily and I call it my happy juice because low levels of progesterone can make us quite anxious, depressed, and a little bit sad as well. Clary Calms, endocrine, frankincense, and peppermint. So all of these oils can support, and particularly for anybody that's feeling a little bit hot, as they get that natural internal rise, then using peppermint oil on the back of the neck and the pulse points, as well as balance and some clary sage, they can all go a long way to supporting and balancing out those little internal surges of power. Stress, we cannot have a talk on hormones without stress because it doesn't matter what you're doing, nutrition, exercise, your essential oils, if you're not managing your stress levels. And how does stress affect the hormones? It affects your fat loss success. It's one of the most serious, I can't see my own slides, to test three, one of the most serious to testosterone production, which we need as women. It's one of the most effective ways to increase our DHA, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, is to manage stress. It's one of the worst thyroid offenders. So again, you know, we know that so many women and men now are getting affected thyroid problems. Let's look at this stressful environment that we're living in, and it also increases cortisol production. Now we know we need cortisol, but too much is obviously going to cause an imbalance in the body, and it's almost like just flushing your body with battery acid. That's how I look at it. I've mentioned DHEA. This is the fountain of youth. It's a precursor to 18 hormones, including testosterone. It's made in the adrenal glands from cholesterol. So let's not be afraid of having good fat in our diet, please, ladies and gentlemen. And it also helps to make estrogen as well. So for some of us perimenopausal women, if we're finding we're getting a little bit, you know, muffiny around the middle and we start going on those low fat diets, we might be being counterintuitive because most of that fat that's stored around the middle is stress related. Yeah. And that's one of the things we're not good at managing. Stress and carbs, not so great for the perimenopausal woman. They're not great for anybody, but particularly for us when our estrogen is getting lower. So please stop bringing home the chocolates and the wine as a way to keep your wife in a good mood. Yeah, there's other things that we can do that can help us feel amazing. Run an Epsom salt bath, or I give you permission. To watch the kittens on YouTube. Go and play with a puppy. Look at birds or chickens. Babies, anything basically that makes you go, raises that oxytocin. Go out there, have fun, make pleasure a priority rather than luxury. Get that passion oil in the bedroom. It doesn't matter, but we need to change and do things that support. So making fun of pleasure is actually going to be amazing for your hormonal health. Essential oils for reducing cortisol and stress, I never, balance, elevation, serenity, citrus bliss, whisper, ylang ylang, Roman chamomile, frankincense, lavender. Let's get using these oils to support us through our monthly cycle to create the right kind of environment to support us. Serenities, we know for many, helps us with our sleep. Citrus bliss is what I aromatically dress with every day. I love the citrus oils, and again, they're amazing for those perimenopausal moments. If you're a new mummy and you can't get sleep because your little one isn't sleeping, then let's try some serenity for them, because again, sleep helps us to reset so many of our hormones. Elevation, as we say, for joy, for confidence, and balance for grounding us when we're feeling that little bit angsty. Nutrition, let your food be your medicine, and your medicine your food. How to rebalance, stop the dieting, eat little and often if that works for you. Let's not skip breakfast. Eliminate sugar and refined carbs, add protein to each meal, eat good fats, pay attention to what you eat, stop drinking your calories, and change how you think about food. I give you permission to make delicious, nutritious, magnesium-filled, hormone-balancing raw chocolates using our beautiful gifts of the earth. Get the wild orange in there. Get the peppermint in there to cool you down. Maybe some bergamot, geranium in your chocolates. How amazing is that going to be to help support hormone balancing, giving you that sweet treat that you feel you need, knowing that you've made it with love and that you're supporting your body in so many ways. Of course, we need to talk about LLV. We've got our cleansers in there to support with our estrogen detox. We've got our omegas for balancing our hormones and our brain health. And then obviously we've got our microplex, our food nutrient, for giving us, that additional added benefit of those 12 portions of fruit and vegetables. Crowd out the bad stuff with the veggies. For me, I'm a huge advocate of juicing. Ideally, we need to be eating at least 1 pound of vegetables a day. That's our green leafies. If you can't eat it, drink it, make a smoothie, make a juice. And if you can't do any of that, then just make your cup of terra greens and neck it. That's how I started. I started with a product similar to terra greens. I just took that every day when I woke up. Then I got into juicing and so on and so forth. But let's get those veggies into our diet. Let's think about our laptop curfews. Did you know, if you're worried about your breast health, then closing your laptop down may actually support your breast health. Oops, someone's Rizzle could be, someone's just on there. Let's just mute her. Oh, right, okay, I can't. I don't know. Anyway, I've almost finished. They did some research and they found that women exposed to bright lights after 10 o'clock at night had a higher incidence of breast cancer. Okay. Oops, why are you now moving? I've lost my presentation. Detoxification through the organs. So thinking about supporting our liver. So again, looking at our endocrine, skin and sweat, our Epsom salt baths, our lungs, using things to clear that out, the colon, the kidneys. We want to be making sure that all our organs are supporting us. I know lots of people at the moment are doing the 30-day cleanse. Amazing, what a great opportunity to get your organs, your digestive system back in balance. Lowering your toxic load. I know that there's been a talk on here about going green and clean with your chemicals in your house, getting rid of toxic metals. Again, one of the reasons I love the endocrine, using your cilantro oil. I juice my cilantro. Why not put a drop in your juice and help in that way? Looking at reducing things like soy, gluten and dairy if they don't work for you. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. It's not too late. And the younger you are, the more work you can do to support your hormonal balance, help you through your, your pre and postnatal years. help you as a new mum, help you move through your 30s and 40s and into, you know, this wonderful time of transformation, which is the perimenopause and into the menopause. The thing to remember is control what you can control. Make the changes that you can influence. What can you do tomorrow? What's the one thing? Could you go green? Can you get quiet? Can you listen to your body? Start tracking your cycle, looking at the small incremental changes that you could be making to your bucket of wellness. So really, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time this evening. Next steps, it's really over to you.